He was a reclusive Arab millionaire whom no one could understand until an American housekeeper revealed a secret buried for decades. What began with silence turned into forbidden desire, and a tragic past returned to collect a merciless price. The Hammond Mansion stood tall in the heights of Beverly Hills, like a fortress of glass and marble, defying the blue sky of Los Angeles. Its perfectly manicured gardens contrasted with the urban jungle that stretched below, as if that piece of land existed in a parallel dimension where time moved differently. The mirrored windows reflected the scattered clouds that always hovered over the largest metropolis in the country. But inside, the house breathed an almost sepulchral silence. Adrian Zachary Hammond had chosen Los Angeles, not by chance. The city had the chaotic energy he needed to lose himself, but also the grandeur necessary to sustain his isolation. Since he had acquired that property 4 years ago, no one dared to break the rules he had established. Absolute silence during meals, no prolonged eye contact, conversations only in classical Arabic with the few employees authorized to speak. For the others, gestures were enough. It wasn't eccentricity, it was survival. Adrian had been a legend in Middle Eastern business circles. His investments in oil and technology had yielded fortunes that defied imagination. But everything crumbled. In a single night in Dubai, when he found his wife Amelia dead in his office, with a bullet in her head and confidential documents scattered across the floor. The investigation revealed an industrial espionage network that involved his own brother, Ian Hammond. Ian had used Amelia to gain access to Adrian's trade secrets, and when she discovered the betrayal and threatened to expose him, he eliminated her. Ian was found dead 3 days later, apparently killed by rivals who discovered his duplicity. But for Adrian, revenge brought no peace. It brought only emptiness. And the emptiness had pushed him to the other side of the world, to a mansion in Los Angeles where he could breathe without remembering the jasmine scent that Amelia used to wear, or the laughter that echoed through the marble corridors of his home in Dubai. Now, at 42, Adrian existed as a shadow of himself. Dark hair always perfectly combed, beard trimmed with military precision, custom-made suits that concealed a body maintained strong only by discipline, not pleasure. His brown eyes, which once shone with ambition and joy, now carried a coldness that made people look away. He spoke when necessary, smiled when etiquette required, but inside there was only a frozen vastness. It was in this scenario that Lucy Conception arrived. 54 years old, from Greenfield, Massachusetts, who had migrated to Los Angeles at 20, carrying in her luggage only courage and necessity. She had spent more than half her life cleaning rich people's houses, taking care of apartments in Brentwood and Pacific Palisades, always invisible, always silent. Her husband, John, had died 8 years ago of a sudden heart attack, leaving her with a daughter to raise and debts to pay. Since then, she had become a leaner version of herself, as if life had trimmed her expectations until only the essentials remained: work, survival, dignity. When the domestic employment agency sent her to the mansion in Beverly Hills, Lucy thought it would be just another temporary job. Rich snob, big house, demanding boss. She had seen it all in 3 decades of work. But when she crossed the electronic gates and saw that imposing architecture, she felt a tightness in her chest that she couldn't explain. The house seemed alive, yet haunted. Wide corridors with high ceilings, crystal chandeliers that captured light almost aggressively, Persian rugs that muffled the sound of footsteps. There were photographs on the walls, but all in black and white, as if color had been banished from that place, and everywhere details that whispered of a distant culture. Framed Arabic calligraphy, Moroccan lamps hanging from the ceiling, the persistent aroma of sandalwood incense. Lucy was introduced to the other employees by the housekeeper, Mrs. Carson, a rigid lady who explained the rules with the seriousness of someone reading a penal code. Mr. Hammond doesn't like noise. Don't look directly at him unless necessary. Don't ask questions. Don't touch anything that isn't to be cleaned. And never, under any circumstances, enter the second-floor office without authorization. During the first 2 weeks, Lucy barely saw the boss. She knew he was in the house because she heard his firm steps on the marble, the sound of doors closing, telephone conversations in a language she didn't completely recognize, but which awakened in her a strange feeling of familiarity. Sometimes, when she was cleaning the living room, she felt eyes on her, but when she turned around, she found only empty corridors. Adrian was observing her, yes, from the first day. There was something about that woman that disturbed him. It wasn't her appearance, although she had a discreet beauty. Brown hair always in a simple bun, green eyes that seemed to carry untold stories. It was her presence. Lucy moved through the house with a quietness that didn't come from submission, but from contained strength. She wasn't young, wasn't naive, and didn't seem impressed by the wealth surrounding her. There was a dignity about that intrigued him and at the same time irritated him. Why didn't that woman show fear or reverence? Why didn't her eyes, when occasionally meeting his, immediately look away? And why, damn it, was he thinking about this? The third week brought a typical Los Angeles summer storm. Lightning cut through the sky during the night, and the house's electrical system partially failed. Lucy had stayed late to finish cleaning the library, a room that she adored despite being forbidden to touch it during the first 2 weeks. The shelves reached the ceiling, filled with books in Arabic, English, French, and Spanish. There were first editions, ancient manuscripts, and treatises on business and philosophy. When the light went out, she was alone on the ground floor, holding a cloth and a bottle of cleaning product. The emergency generator didn't work, and the mansion plunged into almost total darkness. That's when she heard it, a male voice coming from upstairs, low, hoarse, laden with a pain that seemed physical. Adrian was talking to himself, and the words that reached her were in Arabic. Lucy stopped breathing. She knew that language, not fluently, but enough to understand what she heard. Adrian was reciting something that sounded like a prayer, or perhaps a farewell. And then clearly she heard a name, Amelia, being repeated like a lament. Something inside Lucy broke. The pain in that man's voice was so raw, so deep, that she found herself climbing the dark stairs before even deciding to do so. She found him in the office, kneeling on the prayer rug with his face in his hands. There were candles lit around, a hymn, creating dancing shadows on the walls. Adrian raised his head when he sensed her presence. His eyes were red, but there were no tears. Just a desolation that she immediately recognized. It was the same she saw in the mirror every morning. "Forgive me, sir," she whispered in English. "I heard, and—" "You shouldn't be here," he replied in the same language, with a heavy accent that made his words even more grave. Lucy should have apologized and left. She should have respected the rules, kept her distance, preserved her job. But instead, she did something that surprised both of them. She spoke in Arabic. "Ya Ruhi al-Alam, laysa nihayat al-Alam." My soul, pain is not the end of the world. The silence that followed was deafening. Adrian stared at her as if she had just resurrected the dead. He slowly stood up, coming close enough for her to smell his cologne mixed with incense. "How do you know my language?" The question came out as a dangerous whisper. Lucy closed her eyes. There were so many buried secrets, so many truths that she had sworn never to reveal. But at that moment, in the perfumed darkness of that office, with that broken man before her, she felt she couldn't lie. "I lived in the Middle East. A long time ago." "Where?" "Amman, and then Dubai." The word Dubai fell between them like a bomb. Adrian stepped back, his eyes narrowing. When? Between 1995 and 1998. Adrian did the mental math. The same time his brother Ian had begun building his international network of contacts. The same time he had met an American woman who had helped him understand the Western mentality of businessmen. "Your name?" he said, his voice dangerously low. "Your full name." Lucy took a deep breath. The past had come to collect its due, as she always knew it would. Lucy Conception Smith, but there I was known as Lucy. Adrian felt the world spin. In the papers found after Ian's death, there were mentions of an American woman, a cultural translator who had helped his brother establish contacts with American and British businessmen, a woman named Lucy Smith. "My God," he whispered, "you are her." Lucy didn't ask who he thought she was. She already knew. The pieces of the puzzle were fitting together in a painful and inevitable way. "You knew my brother," Adrian continued, his voice getting harder. "Ian Hammond." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "Yes," she answered simply. The word hung in the air like a confession of crime. Adrian studied her in the tense silence, as if seeing her for the first time. The woman who cleaned his house, who moved through the corridors with respectful discretion, who spoke Arabic and who, apparently, had known the man who had destroyed his life. "Leave," he finally said. "Sir." "Leave!" The shout echoed through the house. Lucy stepped back, but didn't run. She kept her eyes fixed on his for a moment that seemed eternal, as if wanting to engrave in her memory that devastated face. Then she turned and descended the stairs with her dignity intact. When she reached the ground floor, the lights came back on. The generator had finally worked. But for Adrian and Lucy, the darkness had only begun. They didn't know yet that that stormy night had marked the beginning of something that neither fear nor guilt nor the ghosts of the past could prevent. Because some connections transcend logic, convenience, and even self-preservation. And when two wounded souls recognize each other in the darkness, there is no force in the world capable of keeping them apart forever. The next 3 days were filled with a silence that cut like a blade. Lucy continued working at the mansion, but now there was a palpable tension in the air, as if the house itself breathed discomfort. Adrian didn't appear. Mrs. Carson transmitted orders through handwritten notes, always in precise and cold calligraphy. Extra cleaning in the library. Change all towels on the upper floor. Polish the silverware in the dining room. Lucy obeyed in silence, but felt the weight of invisible eyes upon her. She knew he was in the house, could feel his presence, like an electric current running through the corridors. Sometimes she heard his footsteps upstairs, always firm, always controlled. Other times she caught fragments of telephone conversations in Arabic, his voice harsher than normal, as if he were arguing or giving severe orders. On Thursday, while cleaning the entrance hall, she heard the office door open upstairs. Footsteps descended the stairs. She didn't raise her eyes from the marble she was scrubbing, but felt when he stopped a few meters away. "How long did you stay in Dubai?" The question came without preamble, cutting like an interrogation. Lucy stopped scrubbing, but didn't turn around. 3 years. "And why did you leave?" She closed her eyes, the memories returning like violent waves. "Because I had no more reason to stay." Ian. It wasn't a question. Adrian knew. Somehow he had connected the dots. "Yes," she answered, finally turning to face him. Adrian descended a few more steps, stopping in the middle of the staircase. He wore a white linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. There was something predatory in his posture, as if he were studying prey. "Did you love him?" The question hit her like a punch. Lucy stood up slowly, resting her hands on the broom as if she needed balance. I thought I did, at the time. And now I know I didn't know what love was. Adrian descended the rest of the stairs, approaching until she could see the small lines around his eyes, marks of sleepless nights and forced smiles. There was an intensity in his gaze that made her want to retreat and advance at the same time. "Tell me about him. About you two." Lucy took a deep breath. She had rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in her mind, but never imagined it would be with Ian's brother, in the mansion he had built with money that might have cost lives. "I was 28 when I went to Amman to work as a translator for an American consulate. I was young, alone, away from home for the first time. Ian appeared at a diplomatic reception. He was magnetic. He spoke 6 languages, knew everyone in the room, had fascinating stories about businesses around the world. Adrian listened in silence, his jaw clenched. He courted me as if I were the only woman in the world. Dinners at restaurants I had only seen in magazines, trips to Petra, to the Dead Sea. He made me feel special, important. He said he needed someone who understood the Western mentality to expand the family business. And you believed him. I was inexperienced in love. When he suggested we move to Dubai, where there were more opportunities, I agreed. I left my job, my life, everything." Lucy paused, her voice breaking. Adrian remained motionless, but something in his expression softened imperceptibly. In Dubai, things changed. Ian became more distant, busier. I worked translating commercial documents, facilitating meetings between him and American and British businessmen. I thought I was helping to build bridges between cultures. But you weren't. No, I was being used. The documents I translated contained confidential information about American companies, data that Ian used to anticipate market movements, to make discreet blackmail. The businessmen I introduced to him were targets, not partners. Adrian clenched his fists. "And when did you discover this?" "One night I found correspondence in his office. Emails about your family, about you, plans to steal information from Hammond Industries. That's when I understood that I was just a piece in a game much larger and dirtier than I imagined." "What did you do?" "I confronted him, said I was leaving, that I didn't want to participate in that anymore." He laughed, said I was already too involved, that no one would believe I was innocent. He had photographs of us together, documents with my signature, bank records showing the money he deposited in my account. Lucy swallowed hard, the memories hurting like open wounds. "And then he offered me a choice. Continue helping him or see my reputation destroyed. He said he would make me look like an industrial spy, that I would never be able to work anywhere again. But you left anyway." "I left because I discovered I was pregnant." The silence that followed was absolute. Adrian stared at her as if she had just admitted to a homicide. "Pregnant," he repeated, his voice deadly low. 3 months. Ian didn't. No, nobody knew. When I found out, I understood that I couldn't raise a child in that environment, in that life of lies. So I fled. Literally. I took a flight to Los Angeles in the middle of the night with just 1 suitcase and the money I had saved. And the child. Lucy closed her eyes, the old pain returning with full force. I lost the baby in the 16th week. I was alone in a rented apartment in Koreatown, without money for a private doctor, without courage to look for a public hospital. When I finally sought help, it was too late. Adrian felt something move inside his chest, an emotion he couldn't name. Anger, compassion, guilt for hating a woman who had suffered so much. "I'm sorry," he said. and the words came out more sincere than he intended. Lucy opened her eyes, surprised by the gentleness in his voice. After that, I tried to rebuild my life. I met John, a good man who didn't ask questions about my past. We married, had our daughter Isabella. I thought I had left all that behind. Until I appeared. Until you appeared. They remained silent for a long moment, the weight of the revelation hanging between them like dense smoke. Adrian studied her face, looking for signs of lies, of manipulation. But there was only exhaustion and a naked honesty that disarmed him. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" he asked. "Because I knew you would hate me, and because I'm afraid of you." Afraid? Lucy looked at him directly. "You're the brother of the man who almost destroyed me. You have power, resources, influence. If you wanted, you could ruin my life with one phone call. And you think I would do that? I don't know. I don't know you. But you want to." The statement came out as a question, laden with a tension neither of them expected. Lucy felt her heart race. There was something in the way he looked at her now, different from the coldness of the first days, as if he were seeing her for the first time. "Maybe," she admitted. Adrian took a step forward, then another. He stopped when he was close enough to smell the soap she used, something simple and clean that contrasted with the expensive perfumes he had known all his life. "You lie very well," he said. "I'm not lying. Not about the past, about not knowing me." Lucy frowned. "What do you mean?" "You observe me. When you think I'm not looking, you pay attention to what I eat, what I read, the schedules I keep. You know that I brush my teeth 3 times a day, that I drink Turkish coffee every morning at 7:30, that I reread the same 3 books when I can't sleep." She felt her face heat up. It was true. Without realizing it, she had begun to study him, as if he were a complex puzzle she needed to solve. "And you," he continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, "always set the breakfast table in a specific way. You place the cup slightly to the right of center, turn the handle to the left, fold the napkin in a perfect triangle." "Why?" Lucy blinked, surprised. "How do you know that?" "Because I observe you too." The confession hung in, the air between them loaded with implications that neither was ready to face. Adrian studied her for another moment, then abruptly stepped back. "Tomorrow is Friday. You won't come to work." "Am I being dismissed?" "You're being spared." Before she could ask what that meant, he quickly climbed the stairs, leaving her alone in the hall with more questions than answers. That night, Lucy could barely sleep. She returned to her small apartment in East LA, but the conversation echoed in her mind like a scratched record. The way Adrian had looked at her, how his voice had changed when she told him about the lost pregnancy, how he admitted that he observed her. There was something happening between them, something dangerous and inevitable that she didn't know if she wanted to avoid or embrace. The next morning, Friday, she was having coffee when the intercom rang. She descended the 4 flights of stairs to the entrance, expecting a neighbor or a delivery person. Instead, she found a driver in a suit, holding a golden envelope. "Mrs. Lucy Conception Smith?" "Yes." "Special delivery." She went up slowly, examining the envelope. Expensive paper, no sender. Inside, she found 2 things, a handwritten note and a key. The note said, in elegant calligraphy, "If you want to understand who I really am, come to the address the driver has. The choice is yours." Lucy looked out the window. The car was still there, engine running, waiting. Her rational mind screamed for her to throw the key in the trash and pretend nothing had happened. Adrian was dangerous, carried the blood of a family that had caused too much pain in her life. Getting involved with him would be like playing with fire in a dry forest. But there was another voice, lower, more insistent, the voice of a woman who had spent years being invisible, who had settled for crumbs of affection and stolen moments of happiness. A voice that whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, she deserved to know what it was like to be truly seen by someone. Lucy put on her best dress, a simple navy blue that she had bought for a niece's wedding, and went down to meet the driver. 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a small Arabic restaurant in West Hollywood. It wasn't the kind of place she expected to find Adrian. Unpretentious, with simple tables and the aroma of spices floating on the sidewalk. He was sitting at a table in the back, wearing jeans and a grey shirt, the first casual outfit she had seen him in. He looked younger, less guarded. When he saw her enter, he stood up. "You came." Against my better judgment. Adrian smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Sit down, please." She settled in the opposite chair, noticing that he had ordered mint, tea for both of them, and a selection of mezze. The simple gesture touched her more than any display of wealth could have. "Why here?" she asked. "Because this place reminds me of home, the real home, not the mansion." Adrian poured the tea with precise movements. "And because I wanted you to see me as I am, not as what I own." "And who are you?" Adrian was silent for a moment, as if the question caught him by surprise. A man who lost everything he loved and is trying to discover if he's still capable of loving anything. The brutal honesty of the answer left her speechless. "And you?" he asked. "Who is Lucy Conception when she's not cleaning rich people's houses?" She laughed, a low and melancholic sound. "A woman who always dreamed of being more than circumstances. Allowed, more like what does it prefer, freer, more alive." Adrian studied her over the teacup. "You seem very alive to me." "Seeming isn't being." "No, but perhaps it's a beginning." They ate in comfortable silence, the weight of the previous day's revelations still hanging between them, but less oppressive now. There was something in the intimate atmosphere of the restaurant, in the familiar smell of spices, in the simplicity of the moment that made them more relaxed. "May I ask a question?" Lucy finally said. "Several, if you want." "Why do you hate me less today than yesterday?" Adrian set down his fork, his expression thoughtful. "Because yesterday you were the woman who knew my brother. Today you are the woman who survived my brother." The distinction was subtle, but profound. Lucy felt something move in her chest, a dangerous hope that she tried to suffocate before it grew too much. "And tomorrow?" she asked. "Who will I be tomorrow?" Adrian held her gaze, and for the first time since they had met, she saw something beyond pain in his eyes. She saw possibility. "Tomorrow," he said, "perhaps you'll be just Lucy, and perhaps that will be enough." Saturday dawned with that kind of fine rain that makes Los Angeles even grayer, but Lucy woke up with a strange feeling in her chest. For the first time in years, she felt expectant. The conversation at the restaurant had changed something fundamental between her and Adrian, as if a door locked for a long time had been opened just a crack, letting in a ray of light. She spent the morning organizing her apartment, but her thoughts constantly returned to his eyes when he said that perhaps she would be just Lucy, and that would be enough. What kind of man was this who could see beyond the layers of protection she had built? And why did it scare and attract her in equal measure? The phone rang at 2 in the afternoon. Unknown number. "Hello?" "It's me." Adrian's voice, lower than usual. "Are you busy?" "No." "Why?" "I need to show you something. Can I pick you up?" Lucy hesitated. Each moment she spent with him pulled her deeper into a current that could drag her into dangerous waters. But there was something in his voice, a vulnerability she couldn't ignore. All right. 15 minutes. When the car stopped in front of the building, Lucy went down and was surprised to find Adrian at the wheel of a simple sedan without a driver. He wore a dark leather jacket and sunglasses, looking younger and less formal. "Where are we going?" she asked, settling into the passenger seat, a place that no one else knows. They drove in silence through the wet streets of the city. Adrian followed the Pacific Coast Highway, then took the road inland. Lucy observed his hands on the wheel, long, elegant, but with small scars that spoke of a life more complex than it appeared. "May I ask about your scars?" she said after an hour of travel. Adrian glanced quickly at his own hands, as if he had forgotten that they told stories. "Boxing. I started at 15 after my father died. It was the only way I found to channel the anger." "Do you still practice?" "Every day. It's therapeutic." Lucy imagined him in a ring, sweaty, discharging all that contained intensity and precise. Blows. The image disturbed her in a way she preferred not to analyze. They stopped on a dirt road that led to a small country house, simple, surrounded by eucalyptus trees. There was no luxury there, only peace. Adrian turned off the engine and remained still, his hands still on the wheel. "This was my Brazilian grandmother's house," he finally said. "My mother was from the interior of California. She met my father when he came to America on business in the 70s. Lucy looked at him surprised. "You're half American?" "I was born here. I lived here until I was 12, when my parents moved to Dubai." Adrian got out of the car, breathing deeply the humid country air. "This house is the only place in the world where I feel real." They walked to the porch, where 2 rocking chairs waited like silent sentinels. The house was empty but clean, as if someone visited it regularly. "I come here when the world gets too heavy," he continued, sitting in one of the chairs, "especially after Amelia." Lucy settled in the other chair, the gentle rocking, calming her. "Tell me about her." Adrian was silent for so long that she thought he wasn't going to answer. When he spoke, his voice carried a deep sadness, but also a tenderness she hadn't seen before. Amelia was light. She laughed at everything, saw beauty where others saw only functionality. She was a doctor, specialized in pediatrics because she said that children still knew how to be happy without reason. He smiled slightly. She would have hated the mansion in Beverly Hills. She would say it was too big, too cold, too serious. "Were you happy?" "For 5 years, yes. Happier than I thought possible." His expression darkened. "Until Ian decided he wanted everything that was mine." "Did he kill her out of jealousy?" "No, out of greed." Adrian stood up abruptly, walking to the porch railing. "Ian was always the problematic younger brother, intelligent, charismatic, but without scruples. My father left the empire to me because he knew Ian would destroy it. That was never forgiven." Lucy joined him at the railing, feeling the need to offer some comfort, even without knowing how. "Ian set up a corporate espionage network to steal information from our company. When I discovered it, I confronted him. He promised to stop, said he had repented." Adrian laughed bitterly. "But he didn't stop. He just became more careful." "And Amelia discovered it?" "Amelia was always too curious for her own good. She found documents in his office during a family party. Documents that proved not only the espionage, but also his plans to physically eliminate me and take over the company." Lucy felt a chill run down her spine. "He was going to kill you." "He had already. tried once. A car accident that I survived by luck. Amelia discovered that Ian had sabotaged the brakes. Adrian clenched his fists. She called me that same night, said she had proof. But when I got home, it was too late. I'm sorry. The worst wasn't losing her. It was knowing that my own family, my own blood, had taken from her the chance to have the life she dreamed of. Amelia wanted children. She wanted a simple house like this, not the palaces where we grew up. She just wanted to be happy. Lucy lightly touched his arm, an instinctive gesture of consolation. Adrian looked at her hand on his skin, and something passed between them, an electric current that made them stand still. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked, without removing her hand. "Because you understand pain, and because—" He hesitated, as if the next words were too dangerous to be said aloud. "Because when I'm with you, I feel that maybe it's still possible to be happy without carrying guilt." Lucy felt her heart race. "Adrian, I know it's crazy. I know our story begins with blood and lies. I know you have every reason in the world to hate me." "I don't hate you." "No? No." She turned to face him completely. "I'm afraid of you. I'm afraid of what I feel when I'm near you, but it's not hate." Adrian raised his free hand and gently touched her face, his thumb tracing the line of her cheek. "What do you feel?" Lucy closed her eyes at the touch. "As if I were waking up after years of sleeping." They were so close now that she could feel the heat emanating from his body, the masculine scent that made her want to get even closer. When she opened her eyes, she found him looking at her with an intensity that made her tremble. "Lucy," he whispered, her name sounding like a prayer on his lips. She knew she should step back. She knew that moment would change everything between them, that there would be no going back. But instead of moving away, she rose on tiptoe, eliminating the distance between them. The kiss started soft, hesitant, as if both were testing unknown waters. But when their lips met completely, something exploded between them. Years of solitude, of stored pain, of denied desires materialized in that contact. Adrian pulled her closer, his hands losing themselves in her hair, and Lucy surrendered completely, feeling alive in a way she had forgotten was possible. When they separated, both were breathless. Adrian rested his forehead on hers, his eyes closed. "This shouldn't have happened," he murmured. "Why?" "Because now I won't be able to stop wanting you." The raw confession made her melt. But before she could respond, his phone rang. Adrian ignored the first call, but the device insisted. Reluctantly, he answered. "Hello." His expression changed instantly. "What do you mean now? I said I didn't want to be disturbed." Pause. "Are you sure?" Another pause, longer. "Damn. Okay, I'm coming back." He hung up, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "I need to go back to the city now." "Did something happen?" "My lawyer. There's news about Amelia's case. The Dubai police found new evidence." During the trip back, Adrian was tense, driving faster than necessary. Lucy respected his silence, but couldn't stop thinking about the kiss. It had been more than physical attraction. It had been recognition, as if two wounded souls had finally found where they belonged. When they reached her building, Adrian didn't turn off the engine. "Lucy," he said without looking at her, "what happened there was real, but my life is complicated, dangerous sometimes. I don't want to drag you into this." "And what if I want to be dragged?" He finally looked at her, and she saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of her, but fear of losing her. "You don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do. I've spent my entire life being protected from difficult choices, being considered too fragile to handle the truth. But I survived Ian, raised a daughter alone, built a life from nothing. I'm stronger than I look." Adrian studied her face for a long moment. "If you stay with me, you won't just be my girlfriend. You'll be a target, Any enemy of mine will become your enemy. And if I say it's worth the risk, then I'd say you're crazy. Maybe I am. Adrian smiled, a sad but genuine smile. Monday, don't come back to the mansion. Why? Because I'll be in Dubai for a few days resolving these legal issues. And because when I return, I want it to be your choice to be there. Not out of professional obligation. Lucy nodded, understanding the implication. When he returned, it would be as Lucy, not as an employee. It would be as the woman who had kissed him on the porch of his grandmother's house, not as the housekeeper who cleaned his furniture. Adrian, she said before getting out of the car, be careful. I always am. Not in Dubai, here, with me. Be careful with my heart. He held her hand for a moment, squeezing it gently. I promise. Lucy went up to the apartment with trembling legs and a racing heart. She had crossed a line from which there was no return. She had given herself to a man who carried dangers she couldn't even fully imagine. But for the first time in decades, she felt truly alive. On Monday, as promised, she didn't go to the mansion. Instead, she spent the day thinking, evaluating, deciding. At night, she called her daughter Isabella, who lived in San Diego. Mom, you sound different, Isabella said on a video call. Did something happen? Lucy smiled. Maybe I'm finally learning to live for myself. About time. You deserve to be happy. If only she knew, thought Lucy, if she knew that her mother's happiness had an Arabic first and last name and came wrapped in dangers she was still discovering. On Tuesday, she received flowers, white roses, simple, with a card. For when I return. A. On Wednesday, a box arrived with books in English about Middle Eastern history and an online Arabic course. On Thursday, a text message, Dubai is grey without you. Back Friday. And on Friday, Lucy was standing in front of the mansion in Beverly Hills, not as an employee, but as a woman who had chosen to love a dangerous man. When Adrian opened the door, she saw relief, desire, and something that could be love in his eyes. You came, he said. I promised. And I promised to be careful with your heart. So far, you're keeping it. Adrian pulled her. Inside, closing the door behind her. When they kissed again, it was with the urgency of two people who had spent days thinking about what could be, and now finally had the chance to discover it. But they didn't know that, across the street, a man in a dark suit was watching them through a telephoto camera, and that the photographs he took were already on their way to Dubai, to people who considered Adrian Hammond's happiness a personal affront that needed to be corrected. The game had only just begun. The next 2 weeks were the most intense of Lucy's life. Adrian had returned from Dubai transformed, more present, more open, as if having resolved pending legal issues had freed him from invisible chains. They spent days discovering each other in ways that went far beyond the physical. He took her to hidden restaurants in the city, where they talked for hours about books, about abandoned dreams, about the scars that had shaped them. She taught him to make fudge in the mansion's kitchen, laughing when he burned the first batch because he was more interested in kissing her neck than paying attention to the stove. You know you're ruining my reputation as a serious and dangerous man, don't you? He said on one of those afternoons, licking chocolate from her fingers. Good. I prefer you this way. What way? Human? But Lucy began to notice small signs that something was wrong. Adrian checked his phone more frequently, became tense when mail arrived, and she had noticed strange cars on the street at different times. When she questioned him, he avoided the subject, said it was natural paranoia for someone who had lost loved ones. On Tuesday of the third week, reality hit them like a hammer. Lucy was organizing the library when Mrs. Carson appeared at the door, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Mrs. Lucy, you need to see this." Carson extended an envelope that had arrived by mail. Inside, high-resolution photographs. Her and Adrian kissing on the porch of his grandmother's house, entering and leaving the mansion together, walking hand in hand through the gardens. And a note in Arabic. "What does it say?" asked Lucy, her heart racing. Carson, who had worked for Arabic families before, translated in a broken voice, "The lone wolf has found new prey. It would be a shame if she suffered the same fate as the previous one." Lucy felt the world spin. "Where is Adrian?" "In the office, but ma'am." Lucy ran up the stairs without knocking on the door. She found Adrian on the phone, speaking in Arabic at a furious speed. When he saw her, he immediately hung up. "You received it too," he said, seeing the photographs in her hands. "Who are they?" Adrian stood up, running his hands through his hair in a gesture that she already recognized as a sign of extreme stress. "Ian's cousins, the Al-Rashid clan. They've always been rivals of our family, but after Ian died working with them, they assumed I was responsible for his death." "And were you?" Adrian looked at her directly. "No, but I found out who was and I didn't stop them." "Adrian, they believe Ian died because of me, and now they want revenge. You've become a target because you're with me." Lucy sat heavily in the leather armchair. "What do they want?" "Money. A lot of money. $500 million as compensation for Ian's death. And if I don't pay, they'll kill me. I won't let that happen." "How can you prevent it? They already know who I am, where I live, where I work." Adrian knelt in front of her, holding her hands firmly. "Because I'll pay." "No, Lucy, no," she repeated more firmly. "I won't let you be blackmailed because of me. I won't be responsible for you losing $500 million. It's just money. It's your life. It's your security. And besides, if you pay now, they'll come back. They'll always come back." Adrian knew she was right. Blackmailers were never satisfied with a single payment, but the alternative was unthinkable. "Then what do you suggest? That I let them hurt you?" Lucy stood up, walking to the window. Down below, she could see the normal movement of the street, cars passing, people living their lives without knowing about the drama unfolding in that mansion. "I suggest we face this together, the right way." "There is no right way when it comes to the Al-Rashid family." "Yes, there is." She turned to face him, a fierce determination shining in her eyes. "We have evidence that Ian was involved in industrial espionage. We have proof that he betrayed his own family, and I have information about his activities that may interest American and international authorities." Adrian frowned. "What information?" "Names of businessmen he blackmailed, documents I kept from my time in Dubai, copies of contracts that prove illegal activities." Lucy took a deep breath. "I didn't destroy everything when I fled. I kept some things as insurance." "Why did you never tell me this?" "Because I was afraid you'd think I was trying to blackmail you too." Adrian approached her again, touching her face with delicacy. "I never thought that. Not for a second. Then help me use this information to end this once and for all." In the next 48 hours, the mansion transformed into an operations center. Adrian contacted his lawyers, FBI authorities specialized in international financial crimes, and even acquaintances at Interpol. Lucy provided all the documents she had kept, each paper a piece of the puzzle that revealed the extent of Ian's criminal activities. What they discovered was shocking even to Adrian. Ian had not worked only with the Al-Rashids. He had orchestrated an espionage network that involved companies from at least 6 countries, including several major American corporations. "My God," whispered Adrian, examining a contract that proved Ian had sold industrial secrets from ExxonMobil to Arab competitors. He betrayed even the country that gave him opportunities. "And this is just the tip of the iceberg," said Lucy, showing other documents. "There's evidence of money laundering, tax fraud, even connections to terrorist groups." Adrian's lawyer, a serious man named Dr. Henry Morgan, studied the papers with an increasingly grave expression. With this evidence, not only do the al-Rashids lose any moral basis for their claims, but they also become targets of international investigation. If they attempt any action against you now, they'll be signing their own prison sentence. On Thursday, Adrian received another call from the al-Rashids. This time, Lucy was by his side when he answered, the phone on speaker. "Adrian," said a male voice in English, loaded with threat, "we hope you've reconsidered our proposal." "I have, indeed, Kyle," Adrian replied, his voice controlled but firm. "And the answer is no." "Then the woman?" "The woman has a name. Lucy. And she's been under federal protection since yesterday." Silence from the other end of the line. "Additionally," continued Adrian, "I believe you should be more concerned about your own legal situations at the moment." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about 23 years of documentary evidence of Ian Hammond's criminal activities, which are now in the hands of Interpol, FBI, American Federal Police, and Dubai authorities." Another silence, longer and tenser. "You don't know who you're messing with," Kyle finally said. "Actually, we know exactly, and you don't know." Adrian held Lucy's hand, intertwining their fingers. "Because you're not dealing with just me, you're dealing with both of us, and together we're much more dangerous than you imagine." Adrian hung up the phone and immediately embraced her, as if wanting to protect her from the entire world. "Is it over?" she asked against his chest. "Not completely. It will take months, maybe years, to resolve everything legally. But the immediate threat is over, yes." Lucy pulled back to look at him. "And us? Is it over too?" Adrian smiled, the first truly carefree smile she had seen from him. "We've barely begun." The following Sunday, Adrian took her back to his grandmother's house, but this time with a specific intention. He had prepared a simple picnic on the porch, with flowers from the garden and the sunset painting the sky golden. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, kneeling in front of her. Lucy felt her heart race. "Adrian, I love you." The words came out simple, direct, straightforward. "I love you in a way I didn't think was possible anymore. I love you for your strength, your courage, for the way you make me feel that I can be just a man, not a survivor." Tears began to roll down her face. "I love you too, more than I thought my heart could love again. Marry me." It wasn't a question. It was a declaration of intent, a promise, a commitment. "Yes," she said without hesitation, 1,000 times yes. When they kissed, it was with the passion of two people who had faced storms together and come out stronger on the other side. They had survived the ghosts of the past, the threats of the present, and now they could build a future. 6 months later, Lucy was standing in the garden of the mansion in Beverly Hills, wearing a simple white silk dress with her daughter Isabella beside her as maid of honor. They had opted for an intimate ceremony, just close family and a few friends. When Adrian appeared at the end of the makeshift corridor between the rose bushes, she thought her heart would explode with happiness. He wore a light suit, hair perfectly groomed, but his eyes shone with a genuine joy that she would never tire of seeing. The ceremony was conducted by a justice of the peace who read the vows in English and Arabic. When it came time for personal vows, Adrian spoke first. Lucy, you appeared in my life when I had lost faith in the possibility of being happy. You taught me that love is not something we lose when we suffer. It's something that grows stronger when we find the right person to share both the light and the darkness. Lucy wiped away tears before speaking. Adrian, you showed me that it's never too late to start over, that we deserve true love, not just survival. I promise to love you in difficult moments and celebrate with you in moments of joy. When the judge declared them husband and wife, the kiss was long, tender, filled with silent promises. Later, during the small party in the garden, Isabella approached her mother. Mom, are you really happy? Lucy looked around, Adrian chatting animatedly with Dr. Morgan about possibilities for social investments, the golden lights reflecting in the pool, the aroma of jasmine floating in the Los Angeles night air. Happier than I thought possible, daughter. Does he treat you well? He treats me like I'm precious. But more importantly, he sees me, really sees me. When the guests had left and they were alone, Adrian took her to the library where they had shared so many important moments. I have a gift for you, he said, handing her a golden key. What is it? The deed to Grandma's house. It's ours now, our refuge. Lucy held the key against her chest. Thank you. And there's one more thing. Adrian approached the bookshelf and removed a specific book, the same one where she had found Ian's letter months ago. But this time, between the pages, there was something different. Photographs of them together, from that first tense meeting in the library to recent moments of pure happiness. Our story, he explained, the real one, not the one that began with lies and pain, but the one we began to build together. Lucy flipped through the pages, seeing their lives intertwined through the images. There was a photo of her teaching him to make fudge, another of him reading to her in Arabic, several of them simply looking at each other with obvious love. How did you get all these? Carson. She's proven to be an excellent unofficial photographer. Lucy laughed, imagining the severe housekeeper secretly capturing intimate moments of them. And now, she asked, what do we do now? Adrian pulled her closer, his arms encircling her waist. Now we live, really live. We travel, laugh, fight, reconcile, build memories that aren't stained by ghosts. And if the ghosts return, we face them, together, like we did with the Al-Rashids, like we'll do with anything that tries to separate us. They kissed again, a kiss that sealed not just their marriage, but also a promise that two people can indeed find light after the deepest darkness. Outside, Los Angeles continued its chaotic and relentless life. But inside the mansion in Beverly Hills, two souls that had been wounded by the past had finally found their peace. And for the first time in years, the future seemed infinitely possible. Lucy Conception Hammond fell asleep that night in the arms of the man she loved, knowing that she had chosen